Will Democrats pass any major legislation before the midterm elections next year? One of the great myths spread about the 2020 presidential election is not that it was stolen from former President Trump, as he has repeatedly claimed, but rather that it was a sweeping victory for Democrats. In reality, they vastly underperformed based on polling and expectations from a supportive media. On the presidential side, Ohio and Florida became even more solidly red. Texas didn't experience a blue wave, and all of the swing states that went to Biden are under continued scrutiny for various election irregularities. Democrats nearly lost their majority, a stark contrast to predictions that they would gain seats. All of the closely watched swing races went to the Republicans. In the Senate, seats expected to flip were held by Republicans, and it wasn't until the runoff elections in Georgia, in which suspicions over ballot counting practices remain, that Democrats secured their 50-50 split with Republicans. None of these results constitute a mandate for Democrats to try, knowing that President Biden will blindly sign anything placed on his desk. Regardless, Democrats will most certainly press ahead, using all of the tricks in their playbook, if for nothing else than to virtue signal to their most progressive supporters that at least they are doing something. They will continue to exacerbate racial tensions to try to browbeat their political opponents into backing down in their opposition to efforts to transform society as we know it. They will enlist their media cheerleaders to gaslight the public while claiming to be arbiters of truth and science. If America was actually united, as Biden claimed his presidency would do, then it wouldn't be necessary for Democrats to resort to bullying tactics and every possible legislative scheme in the book to pass their agenda. They pinned their hopes on abolishing the legislative filibuster, but Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have crushed that dream. Next, they will turn to budget reconciliation, the same technique used to pass Obamacare in the 11th hour and a recent COVID package, in order to push through a multi-trillion-dollar spending plan that barely covers traditional infrastructure. We can only hope that these procedural gymnastics fail, but Democrats will keep it interesting, as they will do anything to avoid a loss. Trump knew this and tried to instill a similar fighting spirit in Republicans, but they all haven't come on board just yet. At least hope is growing that Biden's entire presidential term will be as a lame duck with no major victories to tout, as he faces a very strong competitor in 2024. That's assuming he even decides to stick around until then. What do you think? Will Democrats pass any major legislation before the midterm elections next year? Vote now at pollred.com.